Hi everyone. Today we'll speak about trunk-based development and how we can deliver big features with daily releases. Uh, my name is Dmitry, as you know, and I'm Java developer with over 6 years of experience in the industry. Through my career, I've had opportunity to work on a variety of projects, so from small web applications to large systems. In my previous role as a tech lead, I was responsible for introducing trunk-based development to my team, and I've seen the benefits it can bring. Three different teams try to introduce trunk-based development on this project, and today share general experience from those three teams. We've reduced our integration problems, improved our code quality, increased our productivity, etc. I hope that you'll leave this event with a better understanding of how trunk-based development can benefit your team. Okay, and here you can see the agenda for today's event. We'll start from uh, explanation, what is trunk-based development. Then we'll speak about core principles of trunk-based development, about components, how exactly we can introduce trunk-based development in your team, why we need to use it, and about some examples. And after that, I'll answer to your question, or uh, it will some possibility to discuss any tasks, any questions, something like that. Okay, let's start, and let's start from explanation. What is trunk-based development? Trunk-based development is a software development approach that emphasizes frequent integration of code changes into shared main branch, known as trunk or mainline. It encourages developers to work on small incremental changes and merge them into the main branch as soon as they are ready, rather than maintaining long-lived feature branches. Here you can see the the main principle on the picture of trunk-based development with a main trunk and short-lived branches. Um, Share your experience with trunk-based development. Do you have an experience or not? It's really interesting to know. Great. As I can see, a lot of people already use trunk-based development. That's really great. Maybe in the end you will share your experience, not only mine. We'll talk about today. Okay, let's continue. Now let's speak about some core principles of trunk-based development. And we'll start from mainline as a single source of truth. The main branch is considered the primary source of code and should always be in releasable state. All developers work directly on this branch, reducing the complexity and managing multiple long-lived branches. Uh, Next important item here is continuous integration. Developers frequently integrate their changes into the main branch, triggering automated builds and tests to ensure the stability and quality of the code base. Continuous integration helps catch integration issues early and promotes collaboration among team members. Developers focus on making small, self-contained changes that can be quickly reviewed, tested, merged, and into the main branch and so on. This reduces the risk of conflicts and make it easier to identify the cause of any issues that arise. One more really important item here is feature toggles. Trunk-based development encourages the use of feature toggles or flags to enable or disable new features. This allows team to merge incomplete or experimental code into the main branch without impacting the overall stability of the application. Continuous delivery. What I can say here, trunk-based development aligns well with continuous delivery practices, where every commit to the main branch is potentially releasable. This enables faster feedback loop, shorter release cycles, and the ability to deliver value to users more frequently. And the last but not least item here is code review and pair programming. Regular code review and pair programming sessions are essential in trunk-based development. They help maintain code quality, facilitate knowledge sharing, ensure that changes are aligned with the team's standards and best practices. And ideally, we need to use pair programming without traditional code review or something like that. Overall, trunk-based development promotes collaboration and focus on delivering value to users by encouraging frequent integration and reducing the time between code changes and deployment. But what is the difference between trunk-based development and some other traditional methodologies, as for example, feature branching? Um, let's start from branching strategy. The crucial principle in feature branching, developers create separate branch for each new feature or bug, which they work on independently of the main line. This approach allows developers to work on multiple features simultaneously without interfering with each other's work. Um, in contrast, trunk-based development involves making all changes directly to the main line, reducing the need for complex branching, merging process, and so on. Um, let's continue. I'll speak about other things in other points. In feature branching, developers integrate their changes into the main line only when they are ready to release the feature or bug fix or some improvement or something like that. This approach can result in longer integration cycle and increased risk of conflicts and regressions. Uh, Trunk-based development requires development to integrate their changes into the main line frequently, ideally multiple times per day. This practice ensures that any issue or conflicts are identified and uh, I would say resolved early in the development process, reducing the risk of integration problems and improving um, overall code quality. In feature branching, developers may work on the same feature simultaneously, resulting in conflict and merge issues. Trunk-based development encourage developers to work collaboratively on the same code base, reducing the need for complex branching and merging process. This approach promotes better communication, faster feedback, easier collaboration among the team member, and some things like that. Code review. In feature branching, code review may be less frequent as developers wait until they are ready to merge their changes into the main line. In trunk-based development, uh, emphasizes the importance of code review, where developers review each other's changes before they're merged into the main line. This practice helps to catch errors, improve code quality, and ensure that all changes align with the project goals and standards. And all ideally, code review should be um, done in pair programming or some other things which allow to view code as soon as possible after changes. And the last point from our comparison to these methodologies is uh, rolling back changes. In feature branching, rolling back changes may be more difficult as developers may have to merge their changes back into the main line and then roll back the entire feature branch. In TBD recognizes that mistakes can happen, and it encourages developers to roll back changes quickly and easily if necessary. This practice helps to minimize the impact of errors and reduces the risk of introducing new bugs or regression. What is your role in your team? Could you share this information with me? Great. Thank you for your answers. Let's continue. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Let me share some instruction steps to introduce trunk-based development in your team. And here I'm gonna share my experience, not only my experience, but the experience of the three teams in the project, experience of the Syberry here. Based on my experience, introducing trunk-based development is a sophisticated task. The most tricky part is to change the mindset of people. I've heard a lot of different options, why it's not possible, why it won't work on our project, etc. But some guys understood that trunk-based development is really helpful after several weeks or even days, and they started using it. Uh, we've started our process from introducing the concept of trunk-based development to the team and explain the benefits. To be honest, a lot of question appeared here. People didn't want to change process they worked before. I think it's a general problem for whole teams around the globe, because if people worked pretty long time by one process, they don't want to change this process. They don't want to change anything in the team, and they think that this process is perfect. But actually, I believe that every process can be improved. And in our case, I guess that some of team members, started working by trunk-based development without any belief in it will work, but actually they did, and as a result, our metrics on in the team were improved. Second important point here is a robust testing process. In our case, it was pretty easy to do as it was new project, and we started to write tests from scratch. Uh, so we just started to write different types of tests, like integration, of course, units, performance tests, and so on. We've run these tests before deployment in pipeline, and this process well configured, in my opinion, pretty well. But as far as I know, on many projects in the industry, there is a big problem with testing, with coverage of tests, and in trunk-based development, it's really important. Uh, we cannot continue working by trunk-based development uh, without tests, without well configured process of tests. Code review. Uh, One more important part in run-based development, and I believe 90 or even 99% of projects currently have code review process. When we speak about trunk-based development, code review is extremely important. We've tried to introduce pair programming, but to be honest, after several tries, we've decided to shift introducing this process. uh, Pair programming took too much time, and it was decided that first we need to speed up our development by introducing other processes, and only after that return to the pair programming, and ideally don't do traditional review at all. Of course, we also need to think about resolving conflicts. As I said previously, for example, feature branching methodology, we need to pay more uh, attention to resolving conflicts. In trunk-based development, it's not so huge problem, but anyway, it's a problem, and we need to think about process, and we need to introduce process, general process to the team, how exactly we are going to resolve conflicts in in the team. Uh, One more thing related to trunk-based development, which we've introduced in our team. It's small and frequent code changes. All tasks can be split to small ones. Each subtask should be take no more than half of the day in ideal world, and this increment should be not only valuable but also should be work on production. uh, it looks impossible in some cases, but I can say that 90% of them can be divided. We've even worked together with developers in the team on splitting tasks. Uh, in my opinion, it's one of the way to help people start using TBD, because as I said previously, nobody want to change nothing in their work, and tech lead can help people to understand, to split some tasks, because a lot of people think that not only junior developer but also some experienced guys think that task cannot be split to smaller ones, but actually it's not. um, there were a lot of examples when task looks like not splittable, but actually it is. And the last but not least, again, item, it's improving. I noticed that after some time using trunk-based development, some of the measures were get completely different. For example, time for reviewing code was shrinked, but at the same time, developing is started to take more time. Important note here is that it it's it's a result of only first several weeks. After several weeks, when developers understood correctly what exactly they need to do, how trunk-based development work, and so on, time for development is also shrinked. Yeah, something like that. It was our experience of how we introduced trunk-based development to our team, and interesting notice that uh, first 3 weeks in first 3 weeks our development time started to take more time. You can continuously improve the process. For example, new rules for max branch leaving time can be introduced. For example, you can set 6 hours instead of 4. It also affects metrics. Code review should become longer, but time for development may decrease as developers would spend less time for some iteration work. something like that. Let's speak a little bit about statistic from the world, from the industry. Um, According to Accelerate State of DevOps report, high-performing organizations tend to use trunk-based development, where developers work in small batches and frequent merge their work into a shared trunk. Elite performers who met reliability targets are 2.3 times more likely to use trunk-based development, which is closely related to continuous integration for better impact. According to the Global Development Report by GitLab, more than 40% of organizations use trunk-based development. Additionally, teams that use trunk-based development had a lower chance failure rate compared to teams using feature branching. And so study by GitLab found that trunk-based development can increase development speed up to 50%. And as you can see, such enormous, huge companies like Facebook, Google, Netflix, many other tech business use these workflows, use TBD. Let's continue with measures, statistics, and so on. Um, we need to set some rules, I would set for the team, and to measure the result of trunk-based development process. We need to understand it works or not, and people in the team should understand it. For example, we can create the rules that number of active visible branches in the repository, lower or equal number of developers in the team. Plus, in my opinion, it's also important. We need to create at least one merge request per day. Every developer should create at least one merge request. Of course, there are some exceptions. For example, when people investigate any issue or try to figure out solution for some module or system, they don't write code, and they can skip one day, for example, or several days. But in continuously development process, people need to split their work that way, that they need to create at least one merge request per day. And one more measure here is that we need to find a way to make code review a synchronous activity. As I said previously, ideally we should use pair programming as a code review in the team. Okay, let's speak about feature flags. It's the next part of our events, and really important part of trunk-based development. Feature flags are software development technique that allows developers to work on new features independently without affecting the main code base. A feature flag is a conditional statement that determines whether a particular feature or functionality is enabled or disabled in the application. In trunk-based development, where developers make all changes directly to the main line, it can be challenging to work on multiple features simultaneously without interfering with each other's work. This is where feature flags come into play. By using feature flags, developers can create a new feature or functionality and test it independently of the main code base. They can then enable or disable the feature flag based on specific conditions, such as user role, for example, or environment, or feature toggles, or any other condition. For example, developer might create a new feature for a premium subscription service and enable it only for users who have signed up for premium plan. This approach allows to the developers to test the new feature independently of the main code base, as I said previously, and ensure that it doesn't affect the performance or stability of the application. Once a new feature is tested and approved, the developer can merge the changes into the main line and remove the feature flag. This approach ensures that the new feature is integrated smoothly into the main code base and doesn't cause any conflicts or regressions. Overall, feature flags allow developers to work on new features independently without affecting the main code base, reducing the risk of conflicts, regressions, integration problems, etc. They also provide greater flexibility and control over feature rollouts, allowing developers to enable or disable feature based on specific conditions and some user needs, you know. Okay. Uh, what do you use feature flags in your team? Could you share your experience? Okay, more than 50% use it. That's also great. Okay, and so um, let me summarize uh, feature flag um, topic. Feature flags allow to uh, allow developers to work on new features independently without affecting the main code base. Feature flags allow developers to turn on or off features without having to modify the code. Feature flags make it easier to test new features in isolation from the rest of the code base. Feature flags allow developers to release new features to a small group of users and gather feedback before rolling them out to a large audience. And so if feature is not well received, the feature flag can be turned off. In conclusion, the adoption of trunk-based development has become a game changer in a software development industry. This approach offers numerous benefits, including faster feedback loop, improved collaboration, reduce risk of integration issues, merge conflicts, and so on. As more organizations embrace trunk-based development, it is clear that this methodology will continue to gain popularity due to its ability to deliver high-quality software product in a more efficient and effective manner. However, it is essential to know that implementing trunk-based development requires significant culture shift and commitment to continuous learning and improvement. As such, it's a crucial for organization to provide the necessary training and support to their development teams to ensure a successful transition to this new way of working. Overall, the future of software development looks bright, with trunk-based development leading the way towards a more agile, collaborative, and efficient software development team. That's pretty much it for today. We've talked about uh, trunk-based development a little bit on high level. But anyway, um, as I said in the start of event, um, I hope that you'll leave this event with a better understanding of how trunk-based development can benefit your team. And now it's a time for questions from you. Please welcome, if any.
Yeah, and also if you could share if you love or hate TBD, what's your opinion? That would be really interesting to hear. And
Yeah,
while we
exactly.
are waiting for the questions, Dmitry, I actually have one for you. So you mentioned that engineers often struggled. It was challenging for them to come up with a way to divide, to split a feature for daily releases. And maybe you could provide us with a specific example of such a feature that was challenging to split for daily releases, but you managed to.
Hmm. Maybe someone from our audience also have such example and can share with us, and we can discuss it right here on our event. Uh, but let me think about a real case from my experience. For example, there were several cases with features where we have to collect a lot of information into one piece, made some calculations, and after all calculations, we have to send these data passes data to another service to continue working with them. And a lot of developers thought that feature cannot be splitted, that at least calculation part in this feature can be done by one piece without any splitting. And it looks, from the first point of view, it looks pretty easy to split another part of this feature, like combining data. For example, you can combine, for example, four fields, then another five fields, and so on. But then you need to, when you aggregated all this information, you need to calculate something, and it looks like um, task which cannot be splitted. But actually, it's not. You just can uh, prepare some for splitting. Then you can calculate, implement just one part of the whole formula for calculation. It can take half of the day, for example, and in result, your task will take 2 days, for example. I mean calculation part, but all these 2 days you worked on four completely different separate tasks, uh, which implement just one small piece, one part of the whole formula of calculation. And then you combine all this data and pass to another service, something like that.
Cool, thank you. We have a question from Sergey. How often do you release with TBD?
Ideally, TBD means that we need to made a release every day. Uh, with TBD process, we doesn't have um, any releases, separate releases. All commit, every merge request should be in releasable state, as I said previously. It means that um, your commit should work in production without any changes, without any improvements, and so on. Um, yeah, and you won't have releases at all. Every commit will go to production, from scratch to production.
Sergey, let us know if we answered your question, if you have any follow-up questions for Dmitry. We have another question from Dmitry. He asks, could you please tell more about testing QA, AQA processes on your project if you use everyday releases? And what about environments? Test, pre-production, production, or other paradigm?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Uh, about testing. Every developer is responsible for their commit, And ideally, I said previously in this event that every commit should be covered by different kind of tests. Uh, it means that another developer should see this code in code review, ideally in pair programming. It reduces the risk to some failures, some bugs, and so on. When two developers work together on one task, they see the code, they generate some ideas, and so on. They see bugs right in that moment. Uh, it reduces number of risks. And in our case, we've tried to work without QA at all. It means that every developer was responsible for quality of the feature. If we speak about environments, yeah, we had, as usual, test environment, some dev environment for developers where they tested their features, new features, their committed code. Then we had to pre-prod for acceptance because someone from business guys also need to look at this task, look at the result, and make a decision: is it releasable or not? And of course, then this feature can be pushed to production after all this process.
And what about QA engineers? Are they present on the project? Do they test the code as well? Do they do it daily?
QA engineers in our case can help with testing. They can think about interesting cases, about some edge cases, and this testing process, QA tested some features really fast without dive deep into the details, because only developers know all details about the feature, and manual QA testing is not really necessary in trunk-based development when changes is really small, and they can be well reviewed by your colleagues. They can be well tested, and QA can just can be involved just into the acceptance testing. I would say in our case that works this way, and they were involved into acceptance testing, and sometimes they helped developers to think about some edge cases.
Dmitry, I hope we answered your question. Let's move on to Mikay's question. They ask, how do you solve feature toggle hell when there are a lot of developers, features to test and deploy, and a lot of FF left in configs and code?
Um, to be honest, we didn't solve this issue because in our project, when we uh, developed, so we had a lot of features which were completely done in pretty, I would say, pretty short period of time. We didn't have any A/B testing or something like that at that moment, at least, and we didn't have hell, as you said, hell of feature toggles, feature flags, because we deleted these flags right after feature is done and in production. But anyway, there are some tools for feature toggling, and maybe you can find the solution somewhere in the internet, because as far as I know, there are pretty well designed and well created tools for feature toggling.
And because we have so many experienced engineers here. Maybe someone encountered this issue as well and can share their experience in the chat. Let's move on to Tatiana's question. She asks, what are the pitfalls of this approach? Any major drawbacks? And can this approach be used by any team?
Um, there is, to be honest, after working with TPD, I cannot see any minuses in this process, because time for code review is shrinked, time for development is also shrinked. We almost didn't use QA in our project, only for some activities connected with acceptance and so on. And I think it's much better than traditional development. The main minus, I, there is only one. The main minus is that not all people are ready to work by trunk-based development, because a lot of people, it's really difficult to change mindset of people. They don't want to use trunk-based development. They don't want to change anything. And if person, exact developer, don't want to change anything in his working process in his life, it's really hard to explain why he need to do it, uh, and it's really hard to get some benefit from trunk-based development when people always uh, tried to change this process and do that more similar to the way they worked before. It's really hard to change mindset of the people in the team. And could you remind me second part of the question? I forgot. Sorry.
Uh, it was about if all teams can use the approach, or are there any exceptions?
Oh yeah. In my opinion, there is some. Uh, there are There are some exceptions, and maybe one of exception I can guess right now is DevOpses, maybe, because when we need to create something in DevOps in infrastructure part, uh, it's really hard to use feature flags or some other things. It's possible, it's still possible, but when I said today about tasks which can be splitted to smaller ones, I said that 90% of the task can be splitted. And in my opinion, all traditional tasks for developers can be splitted. I don't know example where it's impossible, but for DevOps, in my opinion and in my experience, there were cases when that was really hard to do, and mm, we've spent more than one day for per merge request.
Cool.
Only one exception, in my opinion. I cannot think about another one. Maybe someone from our audience can help.
Tatiana, let us know if you have any follow-up questions. Let's move on to Sergey's question. What should be the minimum level of expertise of developers working by TBD? Can those be junior developers, or is the approach only applicable to senior developers?
I think it's applicable not only for seniors. Junior developer is also can work by TBD, and according to based on my experience, junior developers is more they are more flexible, and they are ready to try something new because they didn't have their own way to work. They try different tasks, different types of work. Um, they they are ready to try something new, and I would say that junior developers more flexible, and it's easier to introduce trunk-based development with junior developers uh, because experienced guys have their own way, and they have a lot of questions, a lot of concerns that it uh, will not work or something like that. It will took too much time, something like that.
Well, Dmitry has an interesting comment here. He says that um, because we are shifting QA activity to the developers who have higher rates, it could be a drawback for TBD because projects get more expensive, as I can understand the comment. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, I don't think that project will cost more because time for developing, time for writing tests and some other activities, development activities, is shrinked. And according to the statistics, if you remember, more than 50%, it's faster, more than 50% than traditional branch in development and branch-based development. And I think we can spend this saved time for testing and some other activities connected with trunk-based development. In my opinion, QAs spend more time than developers can for testing some feature than developer who wrote this feature.
Um, okay, we have another question from Dmitry. By the way, do you use Scrum on this project you are talking about? How is your planning going in general? There is a lot of decomposition that needs to be done, detailing is needed. How do you estimate tasks?
Um, we it wasn't Scrum on our project. Uh, Let me explain the process on the project. Uh, we've worked. We've taken some parts from Scrum, some parts from Kanban, and we didn't have all traditional Scrum activities in our project, but also I cannot say that it was clean Kanban. Um, in mm, um, we didn't have uh, planning in traditional understanding of many people in the industry. We've had just scope of the work, and that, of course, there was a plan what we are going to do. For example, next week, by the way, we've used weekly cycles in the project. Sometimes we've switched. There was an experiment. We've switched from weekly cycles to daily cycles, and back uh, when something important appeared. But usually we've used weekly cycles. Every week we've had only one meeting for planning. We've seen all these huge backlog of tasks and took some tasks to our current cycle. And after that, we've understood that these tasks may be completed, may not, um, but it was like a mm, plan for us with uh, but not so straight plan. Just uh, we have some tasks which nice to have, some tasks which should be done. Yeah, and just moving through this backlog and working on that tasks. And second part of the question, a lot of decompositions that need to be done, detailing is needed. How do you estimate tasks? Uh, as I said previously, we didn't estimate tasks at all because we decided with the client, it was our agreement that we don't need to spend time for estimations. We just continue working, and if something appeared during developing time, we've just solved these issues, and yeah, it can uh, fail our plan in some cases, but anyway, we've spent less time because we didn't estimate and didn't spend time for estimations.